feel guilty? Well, welcome to the regular board meeting for San Mateo County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, January 7th, 2014. Will you now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, Becky?
Supervisor Pine. Here. Supervisor Groom.
Present.
Supervisor Slocum.
Here.
Supervisor Tissier.
Here.
President Horsley.
Here. Now time for public comment. We have three. Martin Fox, followed by Teresa Dyer, and then followed by Roger Medler.
Good morning, President Horsley, members of the board, my fellow veterans, Supervisor Slocum and Mr. Balpe, Mr. Holland and Mr. Byers. Thank you for your service to the county and pledging your allegiance to our republic, which guarantees freedom of association for all, even those persons living with serious mental illness who do not believe they are sick and cannot advocate for services that would restore their freedom. There are others that should be thanked as well. First is Representative Tim Murphy, a psychologist by training who studied the $125 billion wasted on ineffective federal mental health programs, wrote the Helping Families in Mental Health Crisis Act, H.R. 3717, introduced it on December 12th, and included a provision conditioning funding of state and local programs upon the implementation of assisted outpatient treatment like Laura's Law. Second is Kaminar's Chief Executive Officer, Charles Chip Huggins, who studied the Helping Families in Mental Health Crisis Act, wrote an unqualified endorsement of it, and submitted it for publication within the jurisdiction of a public health system that provides millions of dollars to nonprofits like Kaminar, who would not risk their reputations for collaboration by breaking the circle of the wagons when criticized policy, promulgated during a meeting in the City of San Mateo Library in December of 2011. Third is the San Mateo Daily Journal's editor, John Mays, who published Mr. Huggins' endorsement this past weekend and thereby risked his reporters' access to county government news sources that have repeatedly misrepresented the facts and misstated the law when discussing Laura's Law. Finally, to a former county resident, Father Eric Freed, who was the chaplain at Notre Dame de Namur University and apparently died at the hands of a man living with mental illness who did not understand his need to seek treatment voluntarily last Wednesday morning. A Mass for Father Eric will be celebrated at St. Francis Brothers Chapel, 1885 Miramonte Avenue in Mountain View on January 12th at 11 a.m.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Teresa Dyer, followed by Roger Medler.
Good morning, County Supervisors. Teresa Dyer, 1408 Crespi Drive in Pacifica, California. I have three questions for the County Supervisors this morning. And under the Public Records report, I would like to know the reason the County Supervisors implemented Ordinance 04430 in 2008, publicizing a list of persons designated to serve the public and never using it to this day, despite the fact that several of your department heads were under investigation by the Sheriff Department and the FBI. Number two, why are the taxpayers paying for 26 attorneys listed on your letterhead stationery and we had to outsource a firm to represent the county regarding the public guardianship against Wong and Yangi? And the attorney representing the defendants once worked for the county for 14 years and left because of known corruption. Number three, how does the DA determine what crimes to investigate and which ones he won't? A crime is a crime. At least I always thought conspiracy, money laundering, and wire tampering behind closed doors were a white-collar crime. And those of you that represent all of us taxpayers and are not doing anything are an accessory to those crimes. Thank you.
Roger Medler.
Yes, good morning. Anyway, I'm here for requesting an investigation of cover-up and protection of illegal activities and of a business behind my house. I went to the mayor. The mayor says they have no permits. I went to Kathy O'Connell, the clerk deputy, that she says she has nothing on file of permits or certificate of occupancy. I went to George White as our planning director, and I wrote over 30 letters to this guy. He has not done anything to improve my business or my condition. He says he's working on my complaints, and I don't need him to work on it. I need him to enforce it. So I went to Gene Mullins with a letter that was given to me in 2008, and then Gene Mullins says, hey, you got to help this guy resolve this matter. And so they didn't do anything. Nobody contacted me. Nothing was resolved. So I went to Kevin Mullins, and then he says, well, the business is legal in 1969 with a business license. I don't need a business license. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for the certificate of occupancy, fire lane, and whatever. So he says, yeah, well, you can count on me. It's in my jurisdiction. I said, oh, yeah? So I took the letter of Gene Mullins back to his office, and a gal named Maryland, she says, well, they're in big trouble if they don't have permits. Well, all of a sudden, they sent me a letter back saying, hey, we're not in your jurisdiction. Don't call me, cease contact, don't telephone or email me or drop by my office anymore. I said, whoa. So they said, I went to Jerry Hill. He says, oh, they gave you a business license. I said, that's not what I'm looking for is a business license. He says, well, we're closing this matter. So then I went to you, and Chris Hunter said, I went to Chris Hunter 25 years ago, and he told me that I was trying to ruin the man's business. And I said, no, I'm not trying to ruin the man's business. I mean, I'm just trying to get the codes enforced.
Okay, Mr. Medler, your time is up. Thank you. Item number 1 is a reorganization. That'll be this evening at Burlingame Theater at the Burlingame High School. I'm sorry. I also forgot to set the agenda and approve the consent agenda items.
I'll move to set the agenda and to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye, okay. Item number, I already did item number 1. Item number 2 is the health system as a resolution to use the county savings determination process for the AB 85 Health Realignment Program, Option 2. Chief Frazier.
Good morning, Supervisors, and Happy New Year. I am here, first of all, to say, woohoo, we made it January 1st. The Affordable Care Act coverage expansion is, in fact, in force, so I'm very pleased to be here. This is one of those items that relates to the Affordable Care Act. Specifically under the Supreme Court's interpretation that states actually had a choice whether or not under the Affordable Care Act to expand their Medicaid program. Governor Brown made it clear that he would expand Medicaid in California, which is of course called Medi-Cal, but only if counties gave up the health realignment funds that had been given to counties by the state since the early 90s to help offset the cost that the counties bear for providing medical care for uninsured residents. As you probably recall, there were very intense negotiations between the counties and the governor, and ultimately AB 85 was the legislation that resulted. What that legislation does is it requires counties that operate public hospitals to make a choice, and it is an irrevocable choice. So this choice that we are making today will be one that we have to live with for many years in the future. The two options with regard to the health realignment funds are this. Option 1 is what I call the certainty option. We would give back in perpetuity to the state 60% of the funds that we get from health realignment, as well as 60% of the funds that the county typically contributes for care for the uninsured. So for us, this amount is about $15 million annually. So option 1 is certain. $15 million would be retained by the state and would never come back to the county, regardless of how the finances of the health system and specifically the medical center were going. Option 2 is a variable option. How much the state would retain would rise and fall with how much, really what the end result each year was financially for the medical center. And from our perspective, it rises and falls in the right way. That is, the state would retain more money in the years where the medical center did well. The state would retain less money, potentially retain none of it, $0, in those years where the medical center did not do well. The difference, there is also a cap on how much under option 2 we would ever have to give back, and it's 80%. So the difference between the worst case of option 2, which is $17.6 million, and option 1 is $2.6 million annually. So if we choose option 2 and it is the wrong choice, then the worst case is that each year we would give back to the state an extra $2.6 million, but that would only occur in circumstances where the medical center was doing financially very well. On the other side, in those years where the medical center was not doing well, if we chose option 2, we would retain more funds. So from our perspective, we had to make a tentative decision about this in November. We informed the state that our tentative decision was to select option 2. Today, we need your ratification of that decision because ultimately it is your decision. And so we are recommending option 2. We just got confirmation yesterday that every single county that operates a public hospital has selected option 2. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is the sheriff. Is a resolution authorizing an agreement with the San Francisco Sheriff's Department for San Mateo County inmates to participate in the 5 Keys Charter School program for the term of January 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2014 in an amount not to exceed $197,100. Sheriff Monks. Good to see you.
President Horsley, honorable board members, Mr. Malpe, Mr. Byers, and Mr. Holland. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about this, we think is an exciting proposal. As you know, we've been undertaking a strategic plan to take a look at all of the services that we offer in custody for our inmates. And we're looking at existing programs, and we're looking at best practices around the state and the country. We became aware of San Francisco Sheriff's Office, which has the 5 Keys Charter School. It's the only charter school in the state that's operated in a jail setting. We took a field trip, members of the county manager's office, the board, and my office went up there to take a look at it. It looks like a very interesting and helpful program. The second city of residence in our jail is San Francisco, so we thought that this would be a great opportunity to take some San Francisco residents that are in our custody and put them into this program. The goal being twofold: one, to look at the program itself, but also to look at it as a feasibility for our system and for the new types of services that we want to offer in our new facility. So we are proposing that we would take 4 of our inmates. We're looking at realigned inmates, people that have straight sentences, not mandatory supervision, and 2 men and 2 women. And we're proposing to transfer them to San Francisco, put them in this program, and take a look at it, see how it works, follow these individuals, and look at it from a kind of feasibility standpoint to see if this is the type of program that we'd like to institute in our jails. We currently do GED through the Office of Education. The numbers are somewhat similar, but it sounds like their program is a little more comprehensive and provides some follow-up care after their custody time. So we think that we can learn something from that program. So that's pretty much it. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the program, but we think it's a great opportunity to take a look at potential programming for our system.
Okay. Any questions on the part of the board? I have one speaker on this item. You have, okay, go ahead, Supervisor Pine.
Sheriff Monks, I appreciate you taking this initiative. So I wasn't clear. Do our participants actually move to the San Francisco facility? So
Yes.
that's what really drives a lot of the cost.
Yes, yeah, we'll be taking them and essentially turning them over to San Francisco. So the whole supervision, the custody, and even the follow-up through the probation will be done in San Francisco.
Okay, thank you.
I have one speaker on this, Martin Fox. Thank you, Sheriff Monks.
Good morning again, President Horsley, members of the board, my fellow veterans, Supervisor Slocum and Mr. Balby, Mr. Holland and Mr. Byers. Sheriff Monks is another person that should be thanked, along with the members of his jail planning unit staff. Residents of San Francisco routinely make up the second largest single geographically identifiable group of San Mateo County jail inmates. San Francisco's district attorney acknowledged as much when I met with him in Sacramento last spring. But he reported that because residents of Alameda County routinely make up the largest single geographically identifiable group of San Francisco jail inmates, he was more concerned about the violent acts they committed than the ones committed by San Francisco residents in San Mateo County. So this is quite a feat. It is apparent that San Francisco's sheriff is more interested in trying to do the right thing by his residents than its DA is, and your approval of this agreement will encourage him to consider other proposals that could help reduce San Mateo County's jail inmate population for everyone's benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sheriff Monks. Now, board member reports. Supervisor Tessier?
I do. I have a couple adjourned memories. The first one is Charles Andrus Jr. He died on December 21st at the age of 92. He was a devoted husband for 47 years to the late Genevieve Andrus. They're survived by their 3 children. He was a native San Franciscan, born in San Francisco, obviously, graduate of Sacred Heart High School and St. Mary's College, and he served as a chemist in the U.S. Army during World War II and later worked for Golden State Dairies, which is now Foremost Dairies. And our sympathies go out to the Andrus family. The second adjourned memory is for Rear Admiral from the U.S. Naval Reserve, Jim Grealish. He was proud of his Irish heritage. He was a member of the Ancient Order of Hibernians for over 70 years. He too was a native San Franciscan, raised in the Eureka Valley District, attending St. James High School and USF. He joined the Naval Reserve in 1942, serving on active duty during World War II and the Korean War, and remained in the reserve until his retirement in 1979. After his release from active duty in 1953, he served in various financial management positions, including 41 years with Protected Investors of America, where he last served as chairman emeritus of the firm. He was also a founding member of Our Lady of Mercy Parish, and he was also a member of the Westlake Catholic Men's Club. He is survived by his wife of 67 years, Jean, his son Kent, his daughters Kathy, Chardella, and Susie Flanagan, and his 9 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren, and our sympathies go out to his family. And the last is just an announcement for those of you that are aging well and want to drive smart. We have some new older driver traffic safety seminars coming up. The first one's in Belmont on Thursday, January 30th at 9:30 a.m. The next one's in Daly City on February 19th at 9 a.m. And the third one is Half Moon Bay on March 19th at 9 a.m. So if anyone is interested, is listening or watching, feel free to call my office. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Groom?
Thank you. I would like to ask us to adjourn in memory of James Clark Wyatt. Jim was a San Mateo resident. He was happily married to Trudy. He spent his entire career in education. He worked at Lincoln High School, City College of San Francisco, Kenyatta College, Skyline College. He retired as the Vice Chancellor of the San Mateo County Community College District. He also spent 58 years working for the San Francisco 49ers in game day operations.
Wow.
And he was a terrific guy, and I would ask us to adjourn in memory of Jim Wyatt.
Supervisor Pine? Soon to be President Pine?
Thank you, President Horsley. I'd like to adjourn in memory today of Herm Christensen, who was born in San Francisco in 1930. He attended Dartmouth College, my alma mater, and was very active in alumni affairs, so crossed paths with him from time to time. After college and a stint in the U.S. Marines, he joined the family's home building business, Herm Christensen and Sons, and they developed many large apartment complexes, including parts of Sharon Green and many office complexes. During that time, Herman was the youngest president ever of the Peninsula Home Builders Association. He met his wife of 53 years, Isabel Smith, on a tennis court in San Francisco, and they married in 1960 and lived in San Carlos. He was very passionate about education. He served on the Menlo Park School Board, and later in life was a supporter of the East Side College Preparatory High School in East Palo Alto. He was also very interested in history and served on the County Historical Society Board, among other community activities. So we adjourn his memory today.
I'd like to adjourn in memory of Catherine A. McMillan. She was died peacefully. She's 89 years of age. She was born in Worcester, Massachusetts. Last of 9 children born to Irish immigrants. She graduated from Sacred Heart Academy as the valedictorian of her class, and during her life, she dedicated her life to really others. She attended St. Vincent School of Nursing and finished her training as a registered nurse, and she became an ensign in the United States Navy. Over the course of her marriage to Robert Neal McMillan, they had 3 children, one of whom was our beloved Mary McMillan. She moved to Redwood City in 1956 and began a 30-year career at Sequoia Community Hospital. She had great respect for her profession and infused those with whom she worked with the same pride and dedication. After her retirement from Sequoia, she went on to establish the daycare center at St. Pius Church, where over a 10-year period she cared for hundreds of children who learned to use a lot of unusual words. She always had these sayings. She's a very witty woman. She gave tirelessly to St. Pius Parish, and she made many lifelong friends there. She continued service to others. She actually was appointed to the health plan of San Mateo County and worked to improve access to quality health care for the needy. She was a very proud Redwood City resident, proud of her Irish heritage, and she was always known as Mrs. Mack. And I think she never missed Mass at St. Pius Church as long as she was able to, and saw her there many times. Anytime I see her at the St. Pius Church when I would go, she didn't make any difference what I was. I was always the sheriff to her, and she was always Mrs. Mack to me. So she was a wonderful, delightful Irish lady. And with that, we will.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment for the benefit of those who hail from New England. The word that is spelled Worcester, you would think it would be Worcester. It's Worcester.
Thank you for helping with that pronunciation.
It helps to have some East Coast perspective from time to time.
Yes.
I thought it was going to be some news on football playoffs, but let me just share some good news with you. You may already know this, but yesterday, Chief Harold of the Menlo Park Fire District.
Can you pronounce his last name?
Yeah.
Schapelhuman?
Schapelhuman. Is that right?
Schapelhuman,
That's close. Yeah. Returned to work after, you remember, falling from a ladder and being partially paralyzed for some 8 months. And so he's back on duty for 4 hours a day, and he'll start slowly and hopefully make a recovery. But that's really good news, and welcome back, Chief.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, he was it's a great person dedicated to his profession, so it's good to see him back. I know he does not necessarily think he'll walk again, but he's certainly not going to give up trying. If anybody could do it, Harold can do it. So with that, we're going to adjourn to closed session. Okay, now we're back from closed session. Mr. Byers, can you report on anything that occurred in closed session?
Yes, thank you, President Horsley. The board met in closed session to consider all the items identified on the agenda, but no action was taken.
Thank you. The board will now adjourn until this evening at